Welcome, Wanderer. I spent 30 hours on the seasonal level in PTR testing everything, all the new systems, the leveling, endgame player power, and we're gonna go through it step by step. Let's begin with leveling and the new season rank, because from now on, we will begin with only one skill point, instead of the plus 12 we used to have. This obviously makes you weaker because, well, you only have 1 point. However, on normal, enemies feel weaker in Season 11. They were super squishy, everything was just falling over. While starting on hard or penitent difficulty is very challenging and not something I would recommend unless you want to really slow yourself down or you just like to get kicked in the balls. No worries though, we can earn back those skill points and paragon points with the seasonal rank through predefined activities. This gives you a blueprint on what to do, like I'm going to go into the Hell Tides, defeat Pangs of Duriels, Tortured Gifts, Cinders, monsters with the infected affix. I'm going to do the seasonal quest, and I already get back skill points. This does feel fun the first time around, and other seasonal characters don't have to do it anymore, so the seasonal rank is for all your characters. However, it's fun the first time, but in future seasons, this will quickly become a chore. Now for people returning, this is actually fantastic because if you simply do the task given to you, you will slowly go from level 1 to 60 and through the Torment tiers and always know what to do at which kind of point. But as soon as you're more experienced, this becomes a bunch of chores that you have to check off every season. In order to actually increase your seasonal rank, you also have to do the Capstone Dungeons, but that's in a further point down the line in the document. First, let's talk about Torment 1 to 3 progression. That one is still smooth, but slower because we don't have the 25 Paragon points as we get to level 60. And the jump into Torment 4 is extremely brutal. Even a fully maxed out character with 20 times masterworked items, tempered, sanctified, all that kind of stuff, level 100 glyphs feels okay, right? You can do Torment 4, but it's nowhere near the, oh my god, I'm so strong, I put in all this work. And that feeling of missing strength really heavily weighs down on build variety, because you'll have 1 or 2 builds, maybe, per class that can even do Torment 4 and go closely to pit 80, 90. Forget about pit 100. This is bad for the casual enjoyer that just wants to jump in, progress, and feel strong with the arcadey nature that Diablo used to have. But for people who are super Diablo enthusiasts and who are actually looking for a challenge, it's nice. Let's go to the new tempering and masterworking because this will make clear why you're actually missing player power. Now we choose what we want as an outcome. Take an item to the blacksmith, put it in, and you choose the temper, and the only RNG will be how much percentage does it have. However, if you're out of temper rolls, you can still apply the temper restoration scroll and as many as you want. It always restores 1 temper attempt, but you can do it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, which means you can roll really until you have the perfect thing on your perfect item. One big problem though, we're only getting 1 temper affix at this point, but items now have 4 affixes again. This would technically be good if the 4th affix wouldn't be useless. Let's roll a few rings to make this clear to you. Okay, so we got 3 legendary rings. We got life on hit, crit damage, resistance to all elements, and resource cost reduction. Pardon me. Now I could, for my build that is golem damage, for example, temper golem damage. Fantastic. But the problem is I can't temper golem damage because I actually need to go for golem active cooldown reduction. This means I gotta choose between utility or damage, but missing out that 105% while my golem damage multiplier is 400% is going to miss out so much damage, but without the cooldown, I cannot play the golem. And then the item itself had completely useless things. So I have to now drag this too, and I gotta reroll the life on hit. And there's even more useless stuff. We got life per second, we got life on kill, essence on kill. All of these are, what the hell, healing received. No, I don't want this. This is completely useless. Next ring, look at this one. Poison resistance, overpower damage, life on kill, maximum life. I don't need the poison resistance and the life on kill, but I can only reroll 1 of these. Next ring, int, max life, crit damage, and poison resistance. That's the first ring who's actually useful. However, I would be happy with int, max life, critical strike damage, right? And then I would reroll the crit strike damage or the max life into something different, more meaningful. However, now I can reroll the 4th one. But again, it would be attack speed or critical strike chance, for example, and I'm trading the 105% golem damage for 45 crit damage. That 45 crit damage is useless because I multiplied up maybe by 8% and not by 400% like I do with my Golem multiplier. This choice inevitably leads to a complete loss of player power. It makes the system 100% better in terms of predictability, in terms of RNG, but it's missing also tons of excitement. Because I simply choose what I want. Sure, I'm still getting happy if I get a high roll on Golem damage, but I'm also happy to just have Golem damage guaranteed, or to just have the cooldown reduction guaranteed. But instead of feeling happiness about hitting a high percentage, I'm rather being annoyed by hitting a low percentage, right? If I now go roll the Golem active cooldown reduction and I'm hitting not 25%, I'm like, right? So it's really missing excitement in the system. And the same actually goes for Masterworking. It went from a huge gamble to a more deterministic thing that almost nets 0 player power. Because we're upgrading our items now 20 times. We put the item in and we jam that Masterwork button until we reach 20. Every Masterwork, instead of increasing the affixes as before, only increases the base stat, the all resist, the armor, the actual damage. That alone is plenty unexciting, so the first X clicks until we're there is just another 20 more resistance. Yes, you heard right. And for some weird reason, the update steps are also random. So I'm gonna get 2 quality, 3 quality, 3 quality, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. Why? What? Why is that? So the actual power gain from jamming this button just is not there, right? You just get some more armor. And then you turn a normal affix into a greater affix, which technically is exciting, but that's also the end of it. So I get life on hit now. That's horrible, right? But it's also only a 25% increase. It isn't a doubling of it or a tripling of it. No, it's just that. And the worst part is, let's say I have this Ring of Mendeln with already Skeletal, Warrior Mastery, and Golem Mastery ranks, right? If I masterwork this up now 20 times, as I have done, there's nothing happening to my ranks anymore, right? I can get the summon attack speed, greater affix, the damage, the intelligence, whatsoever. But the Warrior Mastery ranks, the power of that is unchangeable. It will never increase again. In the old system, I could get this up to 5 ranks, and 5 more ranks in the Golem Mastery. Each rank is 25% more damage. Same goes for my chest piece with the Golem Mastery here. I can get a greater affix up to 3 ranks, but I can't masterwork it up to 6, so another 3 ranks missing, another 75% bonus damage. You notice where the player power is going and where the excitement is also lost, because upgrading one affix to a greater affix doesn't give you meaningful power, but it's also not really exciting. It's just like, yay. Because the power gain is not there, right? It's like, ooh, more life, more end, cool. The old system was gambling, yes. But the old system, if you then hit the 1 masterwork, if you hit the double masterwork, and if you even hit the triple, was like, oh yeah, it was super good. Right now, tempering is good, is okay, but the masterworking is actually stabs backwards. Because it's taking the player power away, it's taking the, well, actually fun gambling away. Instead of replacing the system, they should have just taken the old system and allow us to reset in steps. So I got now my 20 times or my 12 times masterworked item, and then I reset down to 8, or I reset down to 4, keeping the old masterwork, and then building up on that, so I can hit the double and the triple easier. Sure, that would have made it simpler to hit the double and the triple. However, right now you have pretty much nothing to hit but a greater affix. And mostly if I have a unique item, like the Blood Moon Breaches, I make sure to anyways have the greater affix base, right? I only want Golem Mastery and preferable Hellbent Commander. But I really need Golem Mastery, so I'm going to search for one that has that, and then Masterworking gives me maybe more crit chance, or maybe Hellbent Commander. But it's one single rank, and I already get everything else. Where's the fun, right? Where's the gain? Where's the awesomeness? Now let's get over to the Capstone Dungeons, which used to be an older Diablo before Season 6, and are actually cool. Everyone will need to do the Capstone Dungeons to advance the seasonal rank. Otherwise, you'll never get the bonus skill points and access to the pit and the tower actually, plus also the Paragon points and later your sparks. The first one will be the Torment Menagerie, and it says monster level 30 and hard difficulty. These Capstone Dungeons are always that level difficulty. Monsters are level 30. That means if you go in with level 26, they also drop level 30 loot, which means doing them early feels terrible because you can't use the loot. Doing them later feels also bad because the loot is outdated and you get better ones already. However, doing these Capstone Dungeons at the same level is quite useless because you're going to be slow and sluggish and they're big and annoying. They're actually not challenging, they're just going to be like blah. I love Capstone Dungeons, however, I rather wait for level 35 to blast faster through them than actually wasting time to slow slugfest through them. Especially since if you go under-leveled in with not a lot of toughness, you're going to get hurt. If you go in with level 30 with an appropriate enough toughness, it's fine. If I go in with level 35 with even more toughness, I can't be hit. We'll talk about toughness more later, that's the new defensive stat. Due to these Capstone Dungeons having zero reasons to do them at the appropriate level, it turns them from a fun, potential thing into a simple chore to do. I pretty much ran through the level 51 without killing a monster and just killed the boss. The level 60 Torment 1, the Pit Tier 15 equivalent one. I only killed the boss, that's it. Same one for the Pit Tier 30. The Pit 45 one, I actually fought a little bit through, and then also just run to the end boss. In general, the Capstone Dungeons are not a bad idea, just the way how they feel right now just doesn't add up. What about the seasonal theme that we're facing right now? The seasonal theme is that lesser evils have infested Sanctuary. Duriel is now the new Hell Maiden and can be summoned, plus his maggots are infesting the Helltide. We also have Endariel in the Undercity, and there's actually an Undercity offering that can increase the chance for fighting her. Then, we get Asmodin as a world boss, and you can summon him, kill him, and there will be chests that can be opened with materials from Duriel, Belial, and Dariel for even more massive loot. Lastly, the pit now has Belial in it. You pop open his Belial eyes, and then you fight him as the end boss, and he gives you a bonus glyph upgrade. This is quite a fun shakeup of existing content. And with the divine gifts that we're having, we get 0 power boost, but tons of loot and experience. Because the divine gifts here say, maggots and Helltide drop experience globes. Yep. Then, chance for an extra upgrade in the pit doubled while purified. Purified is in the inner circle. Vanquish the Undercity to earn salvage materials doubled while purified, and survive world boss encounters to earn activity keys doubled while purified. You could also choose for world bosses to give you more lair boss keys. We can have Vanquish the Pit for more gold. Then we can have the Essence of Anguish with Endariel give us more obols. And lastly, in the Helltide, we could also get more socketables instead of experience when we actually need more socketables. So you can just swap these out for whichever activity you do to get the most out of it of what you need. However, missing power from the seasonal divine gifts significantly decreases build variety and the feeling of being powerful towards Torment 4. As we mentioned before, the player power is low due to Masterworking and the Tempering. Plus, actually then the jump into Torment 4 is extremely brutal, and you don't even have seasonal gifts to boost you further. That's bad. And then you get Sanctification. And that's where bad gets worse, because Sanctification should be an optional final step of the item journey. As soon as an item is sanctified, you can't change it anymore. Now, sanctifying an item will turn one affix into a greater affix. It adds a new sanctification affix, turns an item indestructible, or replaces an existing affix, which is terrible, and it might add another random aspect. Now let's look at some examples of sanctification. This Grave Bloom has durability loss. It ignores it. My offhand got another 7.5% critical strike chance. That's kind of cool, to be honest, but not really exciting because I already have a 100% crit chance on this build. This ring got gem strength. Cool. But it could have also been skill ranks because the bonus sanctification affix is also bonus skill levels. Therefore, I got robbed. My ring here get attack speed, which is pretty damn cool for minions, but I'm at 100% attack speed, so whatever. There's pretty much only one single outcome you want, and that would be another random aspect. The others are subpar. Imagine my offhand, which has Great Feast, 55% more damage on your minions. Also gets the aspect of reanimation, that would be plenty cool. However, the chance for getting a bonus aspect is really low. In 600 sanctification attempts, roughly 100 of them gave you a bonus aspect. That means a 1 out of 6 chance. And if we're then going for the offensive aspects, that's another 53 possible offensive aspects to choose from. Yeah, so I need 1 out of 53 offensive aspects, and I have a 1 out of 6 chance to maybe get my sanctification. Oh man, with the aspect, that's a very low chance. Now, technically, Sanctification is meant as a final step, because you can't modify an item, you can't put on a bonus aspect, anything. That optional goes out of the window, though, because we're missing so much player power that you need to sanctify to keep up with the player power. However, you would only sanctify an item after tempering it, then masterworking it 20 times, then re-rolling the affixes to something better that you want, also putting the aspect you have, and afterwards you can't increase the aspect anymore, so you kind of want to have a max rolled aspect, and then you want to sanctify it and hope that you get a good outcome. And if you get a bad outcome, then the item is technically bricked, and you got to do the whole thing again. This is an okay gameplay loop for absolute super blasters, right? It's fun, like you can actually improve your gear meaningful, and you can really hunt for something. But if for the casual player, it's just going to be pain. If it's only optional, that's fine. But if the player power is so low that optional is not optional, then that's not fine and not fun. Now let's talk about set player power, which is significantly reduced with the new tempering and masterworking system. We get no more skill rank and cooldown boosting, and that's pretty harsh. As I mentioned before, for my golem, for example, I'm missing 3 skill ranks here on the ring with the old masterworking system, another 3 on the grave bloom, so that's 6, and another 3 on my armor. That's 9 ranks in total, and each rank gives me 25% bonus damage. That's 200% bonus damage that's missing. Just like, boom, because the systems are different, and I'm not getting that back anywhere else. And not only is that damage missing, my ring here has Golem active cooldown reduction, and I actually masterworked it and got lucky that I hit the Golem active cooldown reduction. However, with the old system, I could obviously absolutely ramp this up like crazy to then be able to spam my Golem. Now I can barely get it done to actually spam my Golem. And this is going to be a problem for many builds. I need to have my Bone Storm low, I need to have my Soul Rift low, the Bloodwave build, other classes, the Bone Spirit. Getting all of the cooldowns low is extremely harsh, and I'm missing my additive damage. Rogue, for example, used to temper damage per Dark Shroud Shadow. But now Rogue often tempers some kind of utility temper, resources here, instead of the offensive Dark Shroud Shadow temper. But that's 300 additive damage per weapon, 2 weapons with a main hand weapon, with 2 rings with the amulet. All that additive damage missing. That's terrible. Tempering and masterworking steals power and doesn't actually give us more power in this case, which makes everything harder and harsher to earn. That can be challenging and fun, but none of the challenging and fun means that I'm gonna feel like a slug the whole game long. And this all leads to build variety going down, because I can't even consider playing certain builds anymore because I don't hit the cooldown goals. I can barely play a Bone Spirit build, and before it was easily possible, I cannot even make the Machine Gun Bone Spirit anymore because you needed to temper Rapid Ossification 3 times. I can't do that. I can have a greater affix, but then I miss multiple ranks, and that's horrible. Necromancer maybe has 2 builds that actually work, that get their main power from aspects and the Paragon board, and that actually don't get their main power from tempering and masterworking. Since a lot of builds, like the Spiritborn for example, it needs a lot of tempering and masterworking to be strong. The actual power, though, of a lot of Necromancer builds only comes from your board, right? I get 200% from Cult Leader, I get another 100% plus 60 and 60 from the Hulking Monstrosity, with another 40 here, and then my aspects are boosting, for example, the Shadow builds a lot. However, that's not the case for all the builds. Especially core skill rank builds need a lot of core skill ranks. You could have your main ability pulverized with 34 ranks before. Now you're going to be happy when you hit 12 instead of 34. And sometimes, like, maybe 13, 14 with a mythic item. Oh boy, that's a lot of damage loss. And the biggest problem is that even good builds, right now on the PTR, level 100 glyphs, fully tempered masterworked, having mythical items, even they don't feel super strong, not for what they have, right? I can do a pit 80, 90 without using mythic. I can do a pit 80 without using mythics. With mythics and everything perfectly masterworked, 4 greater affixes, all that kind of stuff, sanctification, pit 100. But yeah, like higher than that? No, not at all. And all of this wraps together with a very weird change to the defense system. We get Toughness now. Toughness is all your stuff together. So your armor and all your resistances in a value. Now the problem is that that value says I can take 62,557 damage before I die. Physical. But if I go into a dungeon now, right? And I fight an enemy and he hits me, I only see my life going away and dying, but I don't know how much damage he dealt, right? There are no damage numbers. I don't know how much damage a monster is dealing in Torment 4. I don't know if it's dealing 62,000 damage. And the biggest issue is, if I start activating Barrier, if I start getting some things running, suddenly my toughness goes up to 1 million. The highest I've seen was 3 million. Well, and then I die to a one-hit. So what is 3 million toughness if I die to a one-hit? But 65,000 to 100,000 toughness does not have me die to a one-hit. What does that mean? Where are we standing here right now? We currently miss a complete explanation and examples for this. Before, as annoying as the old system might have been, you simply hit 1,000 armor and 75 resistance, and at least you were somewhat good. Now I get 11,000 armor and 2,500 resistances, and they're like 64 to 70% damage reduction. While the Paragon board nowadays is also full of nodes that give you more total resistance and armor, and I have really taken all of them, right? Everywhere where I can see total resistance armor, I have made sure to actually take that. Because all of these are very important. They without them, you're like super squishy, like down here again, right? And all of you have these now on all of your builds and all of your classes. However, you're still just not feeling it. And we're kind of missing like a real explanation from Blizzard, like, we need some value, like Torment 4 needs 100,000 toughness. But again, if you have a million and still die to a one shot, where's the sense then? Where does this bring us now with all these changes? All in all, the game feels harder. The game feels more challenging. And the Capstone Dungeons are technically nice, where the new Masterworking and Tempering also is straightforward. However, it also feels all relatively unfinished and needs heavily more polishing. Because with the loss of player power, things are challenging to the point where it's no fun anymore. Because challenge is good. Getting somewhere and earning your progress is good. But if you actually earn player strength, and it's still not enough to go further, that's terrible. So we'll either need to increase player power, or the outcome of Masterworking, make Masterworking actually increase our base stats again. Make it bring the cooldown reduction, the max life, the intelligence, all of this slightly higher together with the armor. Instead of just upgrading the base stat, right? And we're back to somewhat more player power without having to throw the whole system out. Or simply decrease the HP of minions. But I would actually prefer if we would like start increasing the affixes again with the Masterworking. Because that would make more builds viable, since right now cooldown reduction, unless you have a Harlequin crest, you're kind of fucked. And that's bad, because if you need a mythic to basically exist, where does that bring us? I don't like that. I'm certainly looking forward to play Season 11 after they updated the PTR, after they learned a lot from what we told them. Because as it stands right now, the casual gamer mom and dad, unless you're a super enthusiast and you super love Diablo for what it is not going to have the greatest of all times. I like a challenge. I like PoE 2 leveling, which is challenging. This feels more challenging, it's good. But again, not everyone does that, right? We're going this way again with the community. The players that like a challenge left, the players that wanted to have this fun, silly arcade ARPG, gone. And we're especially going from Season 10, which was fun and silly, to Season 11, who's get fucked nerd. Bend over. Booty spanking. No, bad. What do you think? Give your feedback in the comments below. I'm going to make the document available to all of you that you can actually read through everything in your own time. And you should definitely watch this video. Thank you very much. Take care.